Hello, it's me again. I thought I'd give you a further update since it's been some time since I gave you my last one. It is about probably just over a month since I returned from Russia, and things are going really well still. I'm in good health. My recovery appears to be on point, and it's good times. Good times. Summer is almost here. Spring is almost gone, and I'm feeling good about everything. Um, just to remind you that I'm a teacher, and that my work is giving me sick leave until I go back next academic year. So it's given me really good time to recover appropriately without going into financial ruin as well, which is really important. So I'm able to concentrate on recovery, and that's been a real help. So I'm at home every day, obviously, while my partner goes out to work and my boys go to school, and that is an interesting dynamic because obviously my partner's has been picking up a lot of the work around the garden and house and whatnot that I would normally do, as well as working, and that must be quite a challenge whilst I have been unable to help as much. But now I think I've turned a corner whereby my strength is good enough, and I feel, and I've said this in a previous video, I feel like my immune system is good enough to be able to do a whole range of things. So and this has probably been a case of taking risks, but so far it's been fine. So I've been gardening. I went and got my car this week from my parents' place where it's been sort of parked up to get it out of the way. And so I've been driving the last sort of 3 days, going out to the local shops to buy things completely independently and whatnot. And even last night for my partner's birthday, we went to the local pub and had a meal with the boys. Everything seems to be returning to normality, and that's really good. And I wasn't expecting to do that so quickly. I know some people sort of live in a protective cocoon for an awful long time and don't sort of make sure everything's totally clean and that there's absolutely no chance of infection at all. Whereas I've basically, apart from probably washing my hands still a bit more than I would normally do, and occasionally using hand wash still, I have been living almost as normal. But obviously I'm not going out as much as I would have done, and I do tire a bit when I physically overdo things or try and do too much. So things aren't totally normal, but effectively I'm getting towards living back as I was before I left for treatment, and that's really cool. And in some ways I wonder whether I'm ahead of the game compared to others, or whether this is completely normal. Actually it seems really variable, because I remember reading one person who had HSCT for MS, and she said she had moved house, moved country, and got a new job after 6 weeks. And so, there you go. I feel as if I would be fairly close to being able to do that to some degree at the moment. Like as I've said, I do feel completely normal, and I'm out on my hands and knees gardening. I do wear sort of latex plastic gloves or whatever to make sure that I don't cover my hands in stuff that would be challenging for my immune system. But I'm still out there doing those things. Put together some garden furniture yesterday, and as I said, walked to the pub and had a meal in a pretty busy environment. So that's really good. And like I've said before, I just feel like my immune system is operating normally, but that's possibly the wrong way to think about things, because you can't feel your immune system. You know, you feel your immune system when you get an infection, but you can't feel. You know, it's just sitting there doing stuff without your body feeling it. And if you take one risk too many, then you end up with an infection that's life-threatening. So it's a dangerous thing for me to think that I feel my immune system is fine. But I do. I mean, I just get this sense. I just don't feel very different. And physically, so physically I'm stronger. My walking is a hell of a lot better. The altered sensations of my skin, so not being able to feel my fingers, is still bad. So that hasn't changed. It's still bad. And I might have said this before. I couldn't feel my stomach before, and my intestines, I couldn't roll my stomach. I think there's been an improvement in my legs and stomach, the skin sensation. And I think my feeling has improved having had the treatment. I think that's a really early positive improvement sign. And so that's fantastic. I think cognitively, I'm probably about where I was. Sometimes I feel like I do struggle to find words, particular words, or even things like the name of a song or a song artist or something. I'm like, I know that. I totally know. There's some things that should be not short-term memory, not just your so I do struggle with certain short-term memory things where I'll walk upstairs to get something, and by the time I'm upstairs, I've forgotten why I've gone upstairs. That happens to everyone occasionally, but that happens to me a lot, you know. And I will stand up from the sofa, walk into the kitchen to get something because I've remembered, and then I physically have to retrace my steps back to where I was to look around to see what might spark my memory to remind me what I was supposed to have got up and done. So that sort of thing happens to me. But what I was saying before about song names and artist names and things like that, that's not your short-term memory. So that is, and again, I was having this before the treatment. So I don't know whether this is better or worse or the same. I would imagine it's same. And only the pessimist in me would say maybe it's slightly worse. But cognitively, and this is my big worry, so teaching is a really difficult and stressful job that has a high cognitive drain. So you have a really big cognitive load where you've got 30 children in your classroom, and you've got to teach them 3 different levels of stuff, behaviour manage all of them, manage any other adults in the classroom, have the subject knowledge, be actually teaching and doing all these things, and then you've got people coming in observing, and you know, that cognitive load is massive. But it's also what I struggled with before I had my treatment. So while I was still teaching, obviously just before my treatment, I felt my teaching wasn't on point because of the cognitive drain it was putting on me. And that is my big worry going forward. So I know it's still a good few months away before I get back to work. And I've got summer holidays as well as a teacher before then. So that's really good. So there's a good, decent chunk of time. But my big worry is, do I have the cognitive capacities to be able to effectively teach to the high expectations I have for myself, right? And I was a middle manager, you know, running English and things like that, and that's my big worry. Okay, but if my cognitive deficits improve as I feel some of my physical deficits have improved, then, you know, jobs are good and happy days. I'll be in a really good place. So. And the frustration of HSCT, like I've said before, is, you know, when you break your leg and go to the hospital and they fix it, and you leave the hospital and they tell you, well done, your leg's fixed, bit of recovery, but basically you're fixed. It's a successful operation, job done. Whereas HSCT for MS, you get the treatment and then it's like, well, the treatment's gone really well. There's no complications and your recovery might be going well, but we can't tell whether it's worked until 6 months, a year down the line, until we compare MRI scans and until we look at your symptoms to see whether they have improved or not. And given the HSCT roller coaster where we expect you to get worse before you get better, then that makes things even more confusing because you're not quite sure at what point you can measure whether you have got better or not. So I think it's really frustrating for people in my position where, you know, the treatment's gone really well, recovery's going really well, but you don't know whether it's worked. And people come up to you and say, "Oh, how are you feeling? How did it work? How's it?" And you're like, "I don't know. I feel really good, and the treatment went really well, but I don't know whether it's worked, and I don't know when I'll know whether it's worked." It's almost like a gradual thing where you're like a year and a half down the road, and you think, "Right, my EDSS score's actually got a bit better. It's worked," or my EDSS score, "Oh, I am getting, you know, my disability is getting a little bit worse still, so therefore I'm still progressing, and therefore it hasn't worked." So it's a waiting game. It's a long waiting game, but you know, my recovery, as I've said, is going very well. I'm doing so much more normal stuff than I was. I'm taking those precautions just less and less because of you just get back into natural swing of things. So, you know, you don't wash your hands as much as you did and use the alcohol rub at every conceivable moment. You are, you know, back in your room with your partner and doing stuff with your kids and just, you know, I've been cleaning the carpet because the kids keep spilling. They're banned from eating cereal in the lounge now because they just keep spilling milk on the carpet and the carpet. So I cleaned the carpet with a carpet cleaner about 8 times. And you're thinking, you're down there and you're smelling the carpet and things like that, and you're thinking all the germs and stuff, and there I am, like just doing all the normal stuff that I know I probably should be doing. But I've been taking those risks and it's all right. And so it's probably very naughty of me, but it hasn't had any detrimental effect. And last week I had my 3rd blood test, and I'll talk about that in a separate video. And because I feel so good, I'm expecting my blood test to reflect that and be. So my first blood tests were really good. I was like, whoa, I'm just back and things are already looking really good. Second blood test, some things improved, so I was even better. But then a couple of things didn't quite improve, and one spiked onto abnormal, my red cell distribution width. I was like, oh. And this one, I felt so good going into it. I was like, oh, I'm sure my bloods are going to be really good. And actually, you know, so I've got no issues with liver and kidneys and all that. And it was only on my bloods that I had some abnormals, which are the normal ones. And then platelets came back on. So I'm like, oh, man, you know, but then it's all pretty normal. It's still really good for where I should be. And obviously, you know, any problems, the doctor contacts you, but it's all within acceptable abnormality, let me say. And it's still, you know, pretty good. So it's you know, frustrating personally for me because you expect to be ahead of the game because you just think, yeah, I'm superhuman or whatever. I don't think that, but you know, I still need to think, I'm not fully fit yet. And in fact, my body, you know, internally is not working optimally. And I must be cognizant of that. I must remember that because it's important that I don't take too many undue risks and end up, you know, doing myself some damage. but I probably will continue to help out around the house a lot more and to get out and go to the shops and get things. And I know it's only just a month and a bit gone, but that seems to be, you know, working fine. And the driving is not a problem either. So that's my update. I mean, it's generally really positive. Uh, and there you go. I mean, my hair's growing back. It's patchy. So, you know, if you look, I don't know, you can just see on top, it's growing back, and it is slowly growing back. It's getting ever so slightly longer each passing day. And when I say ever so slightly longer, what I mean is like a nanometer longer each day. And as you can see here, you know, the hair is great. Now, I used to be able to grow a beard within a week, you know, pretty much. And my big mutton chops and everything like that, you know, the hair on my head and face grew pretty quickly. And now it's obviously very slow, and it's not growing in certain areas where I lost it completely. So my theorizing is, like I said before, it's growing where I didn't lose it, but it was super short, like you know, shaved, but it was stayed like that, and then I lost some. But where I hadn't lost it, it's growing, and I think where I had lost it, it's probably still lost for the time being. So it's a mixed bag of nuts. But hair is starting to grow a little bit. Loads of people say I look so much younger. You know, even yesterday, someone was saying you look really young. You should keep it like that. And or yeah, you've got a really nice shaped head. But you know, these odd things that you hear. So I don't know. Maybe I keep a bit more clean shaven and you know, shave my head so that I continue to look a bit younger. Who knows? And I think that's about it. If you have any questions, as ever, you know, put them in the comments down there or on the blog. And if you could, please subscribe by clicking on that circle there. Thank you very much, and see you later.